This is the hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs demonstrates how we save time and energy when approaching improving our health and longevity. The purpose is to assess instead of guess. We use it as a framework to create a list of areas of most need. We then prioritize these areas and address them first. So what is the hierarchy of needs? The hierarchy of needs is a combination of the latest evidence-based research and analysis of where traditional fitness and healthcare have shortcomings in their approaches, and what we have seen to be successful in working with hundreds of clients from around the world. It is not a specific sequence of progression of 1, 2, 3. Instead, it's a framework that guides our decision making on what clues we should be focusing on, the same way a detective places pieces of evidence on the board before forming a hypothesis. We use the hierarchy of needs to establish a list of priorities and form our functional diagnosis that we use to create our plan. Too often, we see that clients who are dealing with pain resort to mobility drills when mobility may not even be the problem. Or they've been told that getting stronger is the solution, when we often find that they're really missing stamina instead. Getting rid of pain and injury and moving from sickness to wellness can be really complicated and overwhelming. The hierarchy helps us by taking the guesswork out of the equation and providing certainty where it currently doesn't exist. By using the hierarchy of needs, we create a plan that sets us up for success and solves some of the most frustrating and complex problems that have existed for weeks, months, years, and sometimes even decades. So let's dive into it. Like any hierarchy, we have to start with a base. The base of the hierarchy is recovery and capacity balance. How much are you working? How well are you recovering? Is your body handling the demands of life, stress, and training in such a way that you are making clear progress? Before we even begin to consider how well you move or how strong you are, we want to address factors such as diet, sleep, nervous system regulation, and even your current mental state. Let's make this clear. Without appropriate sleep habits, nutrition, attitudes, and stress responses, we end up somewhere between a hamster wheel and a grueling uphill battle. Yes, addressing those lifestyle factors can be the hardest thing a person ever does. The good news is that they are under our influence, and if we choose to take responsibility, the changes we can make to the way we move and feel are enormous. We won't recognize ourselves if we stay the course and choose the right thing over the easy thing in the moment. We're shifting from living habitually to living intentionally for long enough that we can create new habits so we can spend almost no energy doing the right things after all. An important concept to grasp around this is that stress plus recovery equals adaptation. What's crucial to understand about this is that stress is neither good or bad. It simply is. It's up to us to choose what stressors we want to expose ourselves to in order to create the adaptations that we're looking for. For example, if you crane your neck forward for hours every day to better see what's on your computer screen, your neck will adaptively stiffen in certain positions that resemble what you are asking of it every day. Our job is to help you balance the right kinds of stress with the right kinds of recovery. Too much stress without adequate recovery, whether in training or life, might lead us to feeling the side effects of pain, injury, plateaus in performance, and low energy levels. On the other hand, not enough stress and too much rest may produce a similar result of little to no progress and the frustration that follows. The most important piece to take from this section of the hierarchy is this. From the start and throughout the journey, we have to determine the appropriate amount of stress and recovery required for us to make progress in an intentional direction. The pain in your lower back when you're squatting might have less to do with your spine or tense muscles and more to do with the fact that you're sleeping 5 hours a night and aren't moving much outside of training you're doing in the gym. Balancing intentional stress with recovery in order to build capacity is crucial to success, both today and moving forward if done well. It allows the other pieces of the hierarchy to fall into place. Moving up the hierarchy, we begin to look more specifically at movements. Flexibility. Flexibility is defined as passive range of motion, or with gravity or external force. It's the potential for a joint to move. An example of flexibility would be pushing my finger back like this. My finger is this flexible. It has an end range. I'm not going to be able to actively move it further than that. We like to say that strength is gained in the range that it's trained. So clients with limited flexibility cannot train through a full range of motion. If you don't have the necessary flexibility to get into positions, then you cannot train in those positions, and therefore you cannot be strong in those positions. Furthermore, you become more likely to be injured when your body has to get into those positions with training or life. For someone with arthritis in their hip, the hip joint may not move very well. The simplest solution to the problem may be to not have them squat deeper than what their bony anatomy allows for. On the flip side, we also see clients with full flexibility who have been stretching and mobilizing their joints to improve their pain. In this scenario, the mobility drills are not addressing the problem, and now as a result, we're costing ourselves time, energy, and resources that we'll never get back. In addition, we might be worsening our issue. When we're assessing for flexibility, we're asking the question, do you have the potential to get into this position? It's passive range of motion. The other component of movement is mobility. If flexibility is passive range of motion, we can consider mobility as active range of motion. Your ability to use some strength to access as much of your flexibility as possible through active ranges of motion. My finger is this flexible, it's this mobile. So, if flexibility shows you the potential for the joint to move, mobility shows you the potential to intentionally access that range of motion with your own strength. You will rarely see somebody's mobility exceeding their flexibility. In some cases, active engagement through range of motion can feel more comfortable than passively being taken through that range, but the total availability of range of motion remains the same. What we want to know is this: how much of your total flexibility you can intentionally, actively access. If somebody lacks the requisite flexibility to get into a position, they're not going to be able to get into certain positions to move, lift, or train. If somebody lacks the appropriate mobility, they won't be able to access and control the range of motion they have. Adding load in many cases make this especially true. When we look at flexibility and mobility together, we realize our movement potential. Here's a simple example. If Suzanne wants to squat, we can start by having her lie down and check whether or not she can raise her knee towards her chest so that her thigh comfortably touches her rib cage. If she can, Suzanne has enough flexibility in her hips to squat. That doesn't mean she can squat effectively. We've seen people who have enough flexibility to squat who absolutely cannot get in the bottom position. Why? Because they might not have enough mobility to get there. It's an active problem than a passive solution will never fix. On the other hand, maybe someone's joints doesn't have the potential to squat. Strengthening a limited range of motion will do nothing for improving their ranges. We're now starting to see movement in a different light and are able to assess you effectively and get to the root cause of the problem. We're no longer guessing. It's also more clear that many common fixes might work for some people, and that trying them is equivalent to throwing something at the wall and finding out if it sticks or not. Moving up to strength balance. We have a lot to discover about you when we check things like how many high pulls can you perform on your left versus on your right? How do you press in comparison? How well do you perform a squat versus a hinge pattern? How about right versus left? Is the back of your joint as strong as the front? Can you pull as well as you can push? We want to know how well your joints absorb, transmit, and produce force in all directions. We want to know what you do well and what you do poorly. This clues us into our greatest opportunity for improving your function. By looking at strength balance and collecting quantitative, measurable data, we gain another layer of understanding. When we examine skill and motor control, we put the previous pieces together. Beginning to perform complex movements with competency, quality, form, and technique. Everything else has been checked out. Our lifestyle factors are understood and properly managed. We have full flexibility and mobility, and there's balance in strength and stamina. When it comes to skill and motor control, the focus needs to be on getting more reps, practicing the movement, and getting more exposure to the demands of that task. Jumping to motor control right away as the first examination can be a mistake. For example, we've seen clients who are learning to squat in the gym, and they look like a baby giraffe learning to walk for the first time. You may have experienced that yourself. Slowly and surely, they improve, and for those who have full range of motion, strength, capacity, and stamina, they tend to progress quicker than those who don't. By starting from the bottom and moving up, we're able to set ourselves up for success without having to guess why problems are arising. We've seen too many clients training for hours and hours, years and years, and never seeing results. No amount of flexibility will fix a strength issue. The opposite is also true. It's all about assessing instead of guessing so that we can get to the root and solve your problem more efficiently.